Esteemed professors, colleagues, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to our afternoon session. It is my great pleasure today to introduce our speaker, Asu I, Sert, to you. And we made a good team, haven't we, Asu, with sharing the same surname? Asu Sert is a fourth-year student of Foreign Language Education Department at Middle East Technical University. Her field of interests are British and American literatures with a focus on the Romantic era, Gothic literature, and postmodernism. She studied literature and linguistics at the University of Constance, Germany for one semester in 2019. She is currently studying English literature and language at the International University of Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Without further ado, I would like to leave the floor to Asu to present her paper on Maggie Streetwater's Dreamers. The floor is all yours. Thank you, Asu.
Thank you very much. Okay, I hope you can see my presentation. Is there a problem with the presentation? I'm not sure. Just 1 second, please.
No, we can see your presentation also.
You can or cannot? Sorry.
We can.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Then I would like to start. Sorry. What if you slept? And what if in your sleep you dreamed? And what if in your dream you went to heaven and there plucked a strange and beautiful flower? And what if, when you awoke, you had that flower in your hand? Ah, what then? This poem, What If You Slept by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, is featured in the very beginning of the young adult fantasy book, The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. What then is the question that American fiction writer Maggie Stiefvater attempts to answer in her 4-book fantasy series, The Raven Cycle, as well as her sequel trilogy, of which the first book was published in 2019. The Raven Cycle books follow 5 high school students, one of whom is a dreamer. In the universe of the Raven Cycle, a dreamer is a person who can bring objects from their dreams into the real world. Ronan Lynch, one of the dreamers, is also one of the protagonists of the trilogy series aptly named the Dreamer Trilogy. This paper will examine the universe of the Raven Cycle series as well as the first book of the new trilogy named Call Down the Hawk, with a focus on the significance of dreams and dreamers. This paper will also attempt to explain the significance of the quotes by artists such as Wilde, Coleridge, and Poe that open each book in the Raven Cycle series and Call Down the Hawk, many of which have the overarching theme of dreams. The first book of the Raven Cycle series, The Raven Boys, which came out in 2012, focuses on 5 high schoolers, 4 of whom make up the Raven Boys that give the first book its name. With one of the students, Ronan Lynch, the concept of dreamers is introduced. According to the lore of the Raven Cycle series, a dreamer is a person who is capable of bringing objects and even humans from their dreams into the physical world. The concept of dream magic is an example of soft magic, in which there are no precise rules and regulations mentioned when it comes to how the magic is used. Therefore, one cannot mention universally accepted rules for the dream magic used in this series. However, it is possible to infer some rules and regulations about the dream magic according to the examples shown in the series. For instance, the readers are told that the dreamers can dream living beings. In fact, Ronan brings back a raven, a human-goat hybrid, and even a seemingly perfectly normal human being who grows up as his brother. The readers also learn that once a dreamer dies, their dreamt beings fall asleep for an indefinite and possibly infinite amount of time. This is proven by Ronan's dreamer father's death, which causes several farm animals, as well as Ronan's mother, who was dreamt by Ronan's father, to get stuck in a trance-like state between death and life. Apart from Ronan Lynch and his father Niall Lynch, there are several other dreamers in both the Raven Cycle series and the Dreamer trilogy. One of these dreamers is Joseph Kavinsky. Kavinsky can be considered as the literary foil of Ronan Lynch. Whereas Ronan struggles with the reality that he is a dreamer, therefore having to dream things into being in order to survive, for Kavinsky, bringing back dream objects and people is almost treated as a game. Ronan dreams baby ravens, baby brothers, and hand lotion. Kavinsky dreams expensive cars and impossible drugs. With the characters of Ronan and Kavinsky, the reader can observe the stark difference between different types of dreamers. Perhaps this is the reason why the character of Kavinsky is a short-lived antagonist in opposition to Ronan's flawed but permanent protagonist. Likewise, the dreamers introduced in the new trilogy series bring a different perspective to the nature of dreamers. Jordan Hennessy, first seen in the first book of the Dreamer trilogy, is introduced as a troubled dreamer suffering from a recurring nightmare that she calls the lace. Hennessy is forced to dream copies of herself in order to keep the lace from manifesting in the physical world, which makes her grow weaker with every copy that she brings back into the world. It is implied in the Dreamer trilogy that more dreamers exist who are hunted down by an agency due to the fear that the dreamers will bring about the end of the world. How the dreamers are treated in the Raven Cycle series as opposed to the Dreamer trilogy shows a journey of growth and disillusionment through Ronan Lynch believing that he is alone in his dreaming abilities in the first series and taking on the mission of helping other dreamers like himself in the second one. It is also important to understand where the dream magic in the series comes from. Stiefwater draws inspiration from the real-world phenomenon called ley lines to explain the source of supernatural abilities in the series. Ley lines are the straight alignments drawn between various historic structures and prominent landmarks. Stiefwater uses the concept of ley lines quite often to explain not only how the dream magic works, but also how supernatural occurrences take place throughout the series. All of the main characters in the Raven Cycle are connected to the ley lines and their magical energy. One such character is Richard Gansey III, who is on a quest to wake a sleeping Welsh king in order to obtain a favor from him. Adam Parrish, another main character, gains psychic abilities when he sacrifices himself to the magical dream forest called Capeswater, which is mentioned to be on the ley line, making it a place of powerful and concentrated energy. Capeswater is present in all 4 books of the Raven Cycle series. It is introduced as a magical forest that exists not in the physical world, but in Ronan Lynch's dream world. The forest where the trees speak Latin is a sentient and ancient forest which accepts Ronan as its dreamer, and not only allows him to dream things into being, but also helps him in his efforts. Capeswater is destroyed at the end of the Raven Cycle series, and is eventually replaced by Lindenmere, which is described as a real location in the physical world, as well as Ronan's dream world. Like Capeswater, it also helps Ronan focus the energy of the ley lines, and have a safe space to dream. Stiefwater describes it in Call Down the Hawk. Ronan didn't know if other dreamers had forests, or whatever Lindenmere was. Lindenmere was a forest like this. Ronan could close his eyes and get to it in his dreams. Lindenmere was also a forest like this. Ronan could get in the BMW and drive 30 minutes west, up into the mountains, abandon his car on a fire trail, and walk the remaining 20 minutes to the forest, where it existed in real life. He had dreamt it into being. One day there had been nothing but ordinary trees high in the blue mountains. And then the next, he had woken up, and there was Lindenmere hidden among them. It is explained that while dreamers are powerful beings, they require great focus on the energy of the ley lines in order to be in control of their dreams. Ronan finds it difficult to control his dreams and what he brings from them when he is away from the ley line in his hometown, Henrietta, Virginia. Dreamers also have the risk of having nightmares and bringing back night terrors from their dreams. In The Dream Thieves, the reader is presented with a scene where nightmare creatures from Ronan and Kavinsky's dreams have a fight, which results in the death of the latter. It clearly shows that dreaming beings into existence is not only powerful but also a greatly dangerous practice. It is also mentioned that the dreamers have to dream in order to survive. When a dreamer fails to dream for a certain period of time, a black and supernatural fluid called nightwash comes out of their eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, slowly killing the dreamer. The examples of Ronan Lynch and Jordan Hennessy encountering nightwash make it quite clear that without dreaming, the dreamer will die, and along with them, so will their dreamt creations. Ronan Lynch is afraid of death because without him, his brother Matthew will fall into a deep sleep from which there is no waking. Jordan Hennessy feels responsible for her own well-being because she shares her life with numerous dreamt copies of herself, who will all fall asleep after her demise. With such a fascinating and novel approach to dream magic, Stiefwater demonstrates great skill and imagination. However, it is also important to acknowledge the inspiration she took from other artists. To understand the influences of other artists on the creation of the dream magic in the series, one does not have to look further than the beginning of each book, in the series The Raven Cycle and Call Down the Hawk. Almost all of the epigraphs are related to the theme of dreams. In the first book of the series, The Raven Boys, two quotes from Edgar Allan Poe and Oscar Wilde are present. Poe's quote is cited from the poem titled The Raven. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. The line, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before, is significant, since the dreamers of the series are often described as quite different from ordinary people on account of their dreaming abilities. Likewise, the second quote, which comes from Wilde's The Critic as Artist, mentions the dreamer as a separate entity from the rest of the population. The quote goes, "A dreamer is one who can find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world." This quote is relevant both in a literal way where Ronan Lynch suffers from insomnia, and in the sense that he sees and experiences the world differently from those around him. In the book The Dream Thieves, the readers are welcomed by the poem What If You Slept by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, as well as a quote from T.E. Lawrence, which goes, "Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds wake up in the day to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dreams with open eyes, to make it possible." This quote clearly summarizes the events taking place in the book, which are the introduction of Joseph Kavinsky, a dangerous dreamer, and Ronan Lynch's struggle with trying not to become like Kavinsky. In the last book of the Raven Cycle series, titled The Raven King, the readers can see a quote from Algernon Charles Swinburne, which simply goes, "To sleep, to swim, and to dream, forever." This quote might be foreshadowing to the concept of the dreamers being unable to stop dreaming in order to continue living. Lastly, in the first book of the Dreamer trilogy called Call Down the Hawk, one of the quotes related to the theme of dreaming comes from Proust, and it goes, "If a little dreaming is dangerous, the cure of it is not to dream less, but to dream more, to dream all the time." This quote clearly is a reference to the multiple dreamers in the book and their struggles with the fact that they are bound to keep dreaming, perhaps for the rest of their lives, while also trying to save themselves from the waking world. In conclusion, Maggie Stiefwater's The Raven Cycle and the Dreamer Trilogy series bring a novel approach to the concept of dreaming to literature, with the line between the dream world and the physical world oftentimes blurring. With this dynamic and thrilling approach, Stiefwater manages to write an urban fantasy series which, while being marketed as young adult literature, can be enjoyed and explored by readers of any age. Thank you for listening, and here you can see my work cited.
Thank you very much.
I think your microphone is muted, Gökçe Hocam.
Thank you very much, Mehmet Ali Hocam. I keep doing this. I'm very sorry. Thank you very much for this beautiful paper. Also, it was a delight to listen to it. I personally find young adult literature very fascinating, and seeing it intersecting with so many beautiful epitaphs from romantic literature was beautiful. I think we have about 15 minutes till the top of the hour, so we can have a well-deserved Q&A session, and I would be more than happy to welcome any questions or comments from our participants.
Maybe can I start by making a comment, or maybe this is half a comment, half a question. Also, thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed listening to your presentation. You seem to refer to a lot of journeys, dream journeys, and also physical journeys. And in my opening session this morning, I said that keep dreaming, never give up your dreams. Your dreams should be like horizons. As you walk, it should go away. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't dream, because traveling, the journey, will provide you with lots of dreams. So, based on your texts, which one does it work? Which way does it work? Do the journeys provide you with dreams, or do the dreams provide you with journey, based on your texts?
In my opinion, based on my texts, in the books, in each of the books, we see that both versions are true. The dreamers follow their dreams to go on different journeys, and on their journeys, they are constantly introduced with new dreams. So I would say both versions kind of feed off of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. And also there was the image of swimming in one of your works, and water is said to represent the unconscious mind, right? So maybe water and swimming and diving into the water feeds our dreams. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Maybe there will be more comments or questions. Okay, I'm sure there are people who are interested in these works, especially in Marcel Proust's work. Mm-hmm. And is the first novel that you talk about? I have never come across with the author's name before.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a best-selling author or a writer of popular fiction?
In the field of young adult literature, yes, especially after 2010, she's had many best-selling novels. And when I was writing the paper, only the first book of the new series was out. But 1 week ago, the second book also came out, and In the previous week, it also became a New York Times bestseller.
Oh, great.
I would really recommend it to everyone who enjoys not only young adult literature, but also the books provide very three-dimensional characters and many discussions about what it means to be human, what it means to live a real life.
Okay, thank you.
We seem to have, I don't know, a spellbound audience, I guess. We don't seem to have much questions or comments. Maybe I should once again invite our participants to join in this beautiful discussion about the books. And if not, maybe we should end the session. I don't know, but... Also, would you mind telling us a little bit about this difference between Ronan and Kavinsky more in detail? For somehow I seem to get this tension we have in the Lord of the Flies novel. Remember the two leader young adult boys. I don't know, something in probably what you said reminded me of that tension. Would you mind elaborating a little bit on that tension or that difference between these two types of dreamers?
Of course. Well, I think the tension comes from the fact that Ronan and Kavinsky are very, very similar characters. And in the books, Ronan often likens himself to Kavinsky, which his friends doesn't like. They both have lost their fathers, and they are both dreamers with mild to severe self-destructive tendencies. But the difference, I think, comes from not from their nature, but from their environment. Because even though like in terms of personality, they are very similar, Ronan has many friends and he has his brothers, he has a great support system, which prevents him from going deeper into his self-destructive tendencies. But Kavinsky is introduced as sort of a social outlier. And whenever he wants something, he wants to do something self-destructive or destructive towards others, there is no one to stop him. And I think the character of Kavinsky and his introduction is very, very important to Ronan's character development, because the reader can sort of see what would happen to Ronan if he didn't have his friends, if he didn't have his support system.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the audience is very quiet this afternoon, unlike in the morning sessions.
Okay, so I think this was pretty fruitful, actually. The paper, I think, definitely gave us some inspiration as to some reading material that we can enjoy during the summer. I definitely will put that in my mind and we'll have a look at it. My master's thesis was about children's literature. I worked on Philip Pullman, for example, his Dark Materials trilogy, and now we have an amazing BBC TV series about this. Hopefully, this will also turn into some visual material. I'm sure that there is an abundance of material in this. Thank you very much, also Inci. Sert, this was truly a delight for us. And one more time, let me ask our audience if they have any further comments, and then maybe we can wrap up this session and go and listen to our next speaker. I think this was also a METU student, Beyza Nur, if I remember from the program. So do we have any further comments or questions, our dear participants? In that case, thank you very much for your participation. It was really beautiful to be with you today, and hope to see you in our next session. Good day, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.